Imagine a story, a dusty village where hope fades. Young Emily, whose life is endless toil and pain. A cruel father, a sinister stepmother, and a stranger whose arrival changes everything. Will she be able to break free, or has fate prepared a new trap for her? Immerse yourself in this story. Emily was a young girl living in a small, dusty village where sand covered every path and hunger was common. She was only 22, but you could see the weight of hundreds of lives on her shoulders. Ever since her mom died 5 years ago, Emily's been on edge. Her dad, Mr. John, has changed a lot. He used to be a kind farmer, but now he's a cruel drunk. And as if that weren't enough, he married an evil woman named Mrs. Grace, who hated Emily with all her being. They made her do all the cooking, carry firewood, sweep the yard, work on the farm from sunrise to sunset, and then go to bed without eating. Everyone in the village felt sorry for her, but no one dared to step in because no one wanted to face Mr. John's outbursts. Then Harry showed up, a young guy from the city. His clothes were a bit shabby and his shoes had holes, but his eyes were sharp. He worked on Mr. John's farm for 3 months, doing hard physical work like cutting down bushes, planting trees, and carrying heavy loads from morning to evening. But after all that work, Mr. John wouldn't pay him. "Next week, tomorrow, I'll pay when I sell something," he kept saying, but nothing changed. One hot day, Harry arrived at John's house, tired and angry. "Sir, I really need my money today," he said. Mr. John scratched his head, looked around, and his gaze fell on Emily, who was sweeping the yard with a tired face. Then he laughed evilly. "Do you need some cash?" he asked. "Yeah, I worked for 3 months, so please, pay me," Harry replied. "Well then, take this girl," Mr. John said, pointing at Emily. Harry was confused. "Whom?" "My daughter. She's not very good at anything. Let him go with you to the city, and this will be your payment." Emily felt really scared. She dropped the broom and looked at her dad. "Daddy, please, no." "Shut up," he shouted, and then he was quiet. "You should be glad someone wants you." Mrs. Grace crossed her arms and smiled, pleased with her husband's choice. "Great, let him go, one less mouth to feed." Emily fell to her knees, sobbing and begging her dad not to send her away. But no one listened to her. Harry gave the girl the eye. The girl, despite her scruffy clothes, was gorgeous. There was something in her gaze that touched him. "She's beautiful," Harry said to himself. "What did you say?" "Just checked with Mr. John." "I'll take it," Harry replied. It was like that. All of a sudden, Emily's life. With tears in her eyes, she gathered her stuff into a black plastic bag. Nobody gave her a hug or prayed for her. Her younger half-brother, Sam, stood outside the house and cried as he said goodbye to his sister. Emily and Harry headed into the city together. The journey to the city was long and tiring. The bus went through loads of towns, forests, and dusty roads. Emily was sat by the window, looking out into the distance. She didn't know what she was feeling, because she'd just left the only home she'd ever known, even if that home was full of pain. She hadn't a clue where she was going or what was going to happen. But deep down, she was secretly hoping, "Lord, please don't let this guy turn out to be as mean as my dad. Give me peace." "I'm so tired," Harry said almost nothing during the journey. He just looked ahead, deep in thought. Every so often he'd look at her and sigh. She looked so tired, so small, as if she was carrying a lot of pain. At last they made it to the city. Everything around was different. Tall buildings, cars with bright lights, people rushing about their business, noise, traffic. Emily held her bag really tightly, trying not to look confused. She's never been to the city before. They jumped in the car and drove to a quiet street. Harry paid the driver, then took her down a short path lined with flowers. Then he stopped in front of a big black gate and knocked. A few seconds later, the gate opened slowly. Emily gasped. The yard was spacious and clean. The main house, painted white, looked like something out of a movie. There were flowers growing along the path, and there was even a little fountain in the corner. They strolled past the main house and stopped at a small but tidy house at the back. It had one bedroom, a living room, a small kitchen, and a bathroom. They called it a servant's quarters. "This is where I live," Harry said with a smile. Emily had a look around. The place was clean and cozy. "I just got a job as a security guard," he continued. "The lady of the house is very kind. She even let me live here for free." Emily looked at him, surprised. "Is it true?" "Yeah," he nodded. "She lives in the main house with her only son. She said I could stay here while I kept order in the yard." Emily glanced back at the house. It wasn't as big as the main house, but to her it felt like a palace. The roof wasn't leaking, the door locked, and the bed had clean sheets. It was way better than the mat she slept on in the kitchen at home. She smiled faintly for the first time in ages. "If this is God's plan for me, then that's just how it is," she whispered. Harry looked at her. "Are you okay here?" She nodded. "Yeah, I felt pretty chilled. I haven't felt this way for ages." Emily woke up to a nice smell coming from the kitchen. She opened her eyes slowly and looked around. The morning sun shone softly through the window. It was so peaceful. She sat up and stretched. For the first time in years, she slept peacefully, without screams, without beatings, without fear, just silence. She walked into the kitchen and saw Harry, who was frying something in a frying pan. "Good morning," she said quietly. He turned around and smiled. "Morning, Emily. I got breakfast ready. Hey, did you get any sleep outside?" She nodded. "Yeah, just like a baby." They both had a bit of a laugh. After breakfast, Harry said, "Get dressed. I want to introduce you to someone." "With whom?" Emily asked curiously. "You'll see. Wear something simple and neat." She went back to the room, put on the smart dress that Harry had bought her, combed her hair, and left. Her heart was beating like crazy. They left the outbuilding out and walked along the path to the main house. As they got closer, the tall black doors opened, and a sophisticated woman of about 50 appeared on the threshold. She had kind eyes and a calm look. "Good morning, madam," the guy said. "Morning, Harry. And who's this gorgeous young lady?" "This is Emily, my wife," Harry replied. Mrs. Presley looked at Emily with warm eyes. "So this is the same girl you were talking about. She's charming. Come in, love." Emily crossed the threshold carefully. Her eyes opened wide, and she was impressed by how clean and tidy the living room was and how expensive everything looked. Mrs. Presley took her hand gently. "Welcome, Emily. You have a kind soul. I'm glad Harry brought you here." Emily smiled shyly. "Thank you, madam. You can call me Mrs. Presley. Make yourself at home, okay? This house is big enough for the world. If you need anything, just let me know." "Okay, madam, I'll get it," Emily replied. After a quick chat, they went back to the outbuilding. That evening, after she'd cleaned the kitchen and tidied the room, Emily sat on the edge of the bed thinking. Harry was on the floor, fixing the cabinet handle. "Harry," she called quietly. He looked up at her. "Yes, can I tell you something?" "Of course." She let out a sigh, playing with her fingers. "When my dad said I should go to the city with you, I felt like I wasn't needed. I felt like I was just thrown away, like no one needed me." Harry got to his feet gradually, keeping his eyes on her. "I thought you'd be worse than him. I guess I thought that when we got here you would start yelling at me, hitting me, or treating me like a slave." Her voice was wobbly, and she had tears in her eyes. "But you didn't. You gave me peace. You gave me shelter. You respected me. You even cooked for me." She wiped her face with the back of her hand. "I just wanted to say a quick thank you. I'm glad I came here. I'm not angry with my dad for giving me to you anymore. Now I think maybe this was God's plan." Harry sat next to her and took her hand. "I'll never hurt you, Emily. I don't want to be that person." He paused, then added, "You know what? I liked you for ages. I first saw you on the farm." Emily looked at him, surprised. "I wanted to talk to your dad, but I was scared. I thought he would reject me, insult me, or even drive me away because I had nothing." He smiled gently. "But that day when he told me to take you instead of paying, I was gobsmacked. But actually, I was pretty happy." Emily looked down. "I don't love you yet, Harry." "I know," he replied quickly, "and I'm not rushing you." She nodded slowly. "I like the way you treat me. Like I matter. I'm not a mistake, am I? Like I'm a queen." His smile got wider. "Because you're the queen, Emily. They just put you in the wrong palace." Emily laughed quietly, wiping away another tear. For the first time in ages, she felt like she was being seen and appreciated. She hadn't fallen head over heels yet, but she was already starting to feel some pretty great emotions, like respect, peace, and trust. A month later, Emily's life was starting to look even better. Every day she was in the kitchen, trying out new recipes and even writing them down in a little notebook that Harry gave her. Her self-esteem grew. One sunny day, as she was helping Mrs. Presley bring the shopping in, a woman called out to her, "Emily, can you come and sit with me for a minute?" Emily dried her hands and sat down next to her. Mrs. Presley smiled. "You know, Harry told me something about you." Emily felt a bit embarrassed, but she was also really interested to hear what the guy had told her. Mrs. Presley nodded her agreement. "He said you were a great cook." "I think you're right. You help out with the housework, and I can see you've got a good heart. You're also a real go-getter." "Thank you, madam. I'm very grateful," Emily replied timidly. Mrs. Presley carried on. "My cook went abroad with her family, and now I need someone I can trust. And I've been looking at you, sweetheart. I think you're perfect." Emily's eyes welled up. "Oh, thanks so much. You're so kind. The Lord bless you. I don't even know what to say." Mrs. Presley gave her arm a little pat. "You deserve it. You're a good girl." Emily gave her face a quick wipe. "Madam, I've got something to say to you." "Of course, baby." "I was looking for a way to make money. Not just for clothes or anything else. I want to study. I want to get an education and go to university." Mrs. Presley's face lit up with a sweet smile. "Do you want to go to university?" "Yes, madam. I left school after high school because of family issues." "But I love to study. I really want to." Mrs. Presley gave her a hug. "My child, I love girls who strive for knowledge. It's a great dream, and I'm super proud of you." Emily felt so happy. "Thank you, madam. Thank you very much." Once she'd finished helping out in the kitchen, she went back to the outbuilding happily. "Hey, Harry!" "Hey, Harry!" the girl shouted. He hurried out of the room, surprised. "What's going on? Why are you screaming like that?" "Harry, I've got some great news for you. Mrs. Presley said I could become her new cook," Emily said, beaming. "Seriously?" Harry's eyes opened wide. "Yeah, she said she'd pay me every month. I also told her that I wanted to go to university, and she was so happy." Harry gave her a hug. "You're my wife, my smart girl, my queen." Emily laughed and blushed. "Ah, Harry, don't go there." "No, I'm serious," he said, holding her hands. "You've come such a long way, from the village to the city, from tears to smiles, from rejection to—" She nodded, still smiling. "It's like a dream. And the best thing is, the dream is just beginning." "Exactly," Harry added. That night, after dinner, Emily and Harry were lying side by side on the bed, staring at the ceiling. The day was long but beautiful. "Emily, I couldn't sleep. I had so many thoughts racing around my head." After a bit of a pause, she finally turned to Harry. "Harry," she called quietly. "Yes?" He was still looking at the ceiling. "Can I ask you something?" "About anything," he told her. Emily took a deep breath. "Why haven't you touched me since I got here?" He was actually shocked. He hadn't expected such a question. Emily continued, "Well, we're married, aren't we? If it had been another man, he probably would have done it on the first night. Harry took a seat against the wall, slowly. He sounded pretty chilled. "You're right, Emily. Lots of men would do this. But I'm not just any man. I didn't bring you here to use you." He looked into her eyes. "You've had a tough time already. I can see the pain in your eyes, even when you're smiling. I don't want to add to your pain." Emily looked down, and she was crying again. Harry carried on. "I want you to be ready. I want you to be my number one. And then, when your heart's at peace, you can give yourself to me whenever you want, not because you feel obliged, not because you think you should. I know you've never been with a man. You've carried shame, rejection, and fear for way too long. That night, when your dad gave you away like a thing, something inside you broke." Emily lowered her head, her heart beating really fast. "But Emily, you're not a thing. You're a strong person. You're one of a kind. And when the time comes when your heart says, yes, not because of pressure, but because of love, then I'll be ready." Tears rolled down her cheeks. She'd never heard such words and confessions in her life. "Do you really think so?" she asked quietly. "Yes," he replied. "I want you to feel safe with me, Emily. This marriage should be based on love, not fear." She wiped away her tears and smiled softly. "Cheers, Harry," she whispered. "You've changed my life. I thought all men were like my dad, but you're a different story." Harry leaned over and gave her a gentle kiss on the forehead. "Sleep well, my queen." Emily got back down again, feeling totally chilled. For the first time in her life, she felt truly safe in the arms of a man. Not just a husband, a friend. 2 days later, after Emily started working as a cook in the main house, something strange happened. That morning, she was in the kitchen making Mrs. Presley's favorite vegetable soup. She'd just finished chopping the cabbage leaves when the kitchen door opened. She turned around and saw a tall, good-looking guy standing in the doorway, looking at her. It was Michael, Mrs. Presley's only son. He stopped for a second, then smiled and said, "Wow, you're so beautiful." Emily stood there, stunned. "Mom told me about you," he went on, slowly entering the kitchen. "She said, you're smart, modest, and beautiful. But honestly, I thought she was just making things up until I saw you." He put his hand on the tabletop and looked her up and down. "Wow, girl, you are just fire. I think God created you on a Sunday morning and probably took his time drawing out every detail of your body." Emily became very uncomfortable. She quickly looked down and tried to focus on cooking. "Good afternoon, sir," she said quietly, trying to ignore what he'd said. Michael laughed and waved his hand. "Come on, don't call me sir. I'm just a boy. You can call me Michael." Emily shook her head. "No, sir, I can't. This is wrong." He smiled again. "You are so polite. I like it." She didn't say anything, just kept on cooking. A few minutes later, Michael came out of the kitchen, still smiling. When Emily got back to the outbuilding after work, Harry was waiting for her outside, sitting on a wooden bench. "Hey, my queen," he said, grinning. "How was your day?" Emily sat down next to him, looking a bit worried. "Harry, something happened today." He turned to her quickly. "What's happened?" "Hey, you all right?" "Yeah, I'm fine. But your boss's son, Michael, came into the kitchen, and he said things that made me feel uncomfortable. He told me I was beautiful and that God created me on Sunday morning. I should also try to call him by his first name rather than sir." Harry looked a bit unimpressed at first, but then he smiled. "Ah, this is Michael. He's a funny guy." "So he's joking." Emily didn't smile. "Harry, I didn't like the way he looked at me." "It's like I'm something you can eat." Harry laughed quietly and touched her hand. "Don't worry, love. Don't let it get to you. Michael's a pretty harmless guy. He just loves to talk. He doesn't mean anything bad." Emily looked straight into Harry's eyes. "You're sure about that?" "Of course," he said gently. "But if he ever crosses boundaries, just let me know. I'll always protect you." She nodded slowly. "Okay, if you say so." He smiled and kissed her on the forehead. "You're safe with me, Emily." "Always." But Emily still had a feeling that something wasn't quite right. There was something in Michael's eyes that made her nervous, something she couldn't explain. A few days later, Emily was back in the kitchen getting dinner ready. She felt like someone was watching her. "It's Michael again." He strolled into the kitchen and leaned against the door. "You know," he said with a smile, "your food's got something special about it." Emily turned around and said hello. "How are you today, sir?" He didn't acknowledge the greeting. "Emily, I was thinking—" "I don't want to waste time. Let me get straight to the point." She stopped and looked at him, wondering what he was getting at. Michael came closer, lowered his voice, and said, "I like you. I'm not joking. You're gorgeous, smart, and you work really hard, and I'm not just saying that to flatter you. I want you to be my girlfriend." Emily, I was taken aback and looked at him. "Sir?" He smiled and continued, "I'll change your life. I'll send you to school. Not just any. I'll pay for you to study abroad if you want. London, Canada, anywhere. I'll buy you a new phone, clothes, money, whatever you need. You'll never struggle to survive again." Emily stood there, not saying a word. Michael took another step closer and kept talking. "You're wasting your time on this poor guard. What does he do for you? Nothing. I can tell my mom to fire him today or just pay him off. Just say yes, babe, and your life will never be the same." Emily took a deep breath and slowly stepped back. "With all due respect, sir," she said in a firm but calm voice, "I am not interested in your offer." Michael raised an eyebrow. "What?" "I'm focusing on my marriage, work, and my dream of getting an education. I'm not going to throw this away just for the sake of it." He laughed out loud. "Marriage? I don't know. Are you really going to call this marriage? You should be ashamed of yourself. At your age, you should be in school or dating someone like me, not a penniless security guard." Emily stood her ground, however, and her voice was firm. "I'm not ashamed. I'm very proud of my husband. He's always been respectful and loving towards me. He's not got much money at the moment, but I'm sure God will make him a rich man one day." Michael laughed. "It's just your dreams, girl." "I'd rather dream with someone who loves me than live a fake life with someone who only wants to use me," she answered boldly. He shook his head and laughed. "You'll regret this." "No, sir," she said. "If being with someone who supports me is a mistake, then I'll happily make it again and again." Michael looked at her for a few seconds, then turned around and left the kitchen, clearly unhappy. Later on, Emily went back to the outhouse. Harry noticed she wasn't saying anything. "My queen, you're not saying much today." "Everything okay?" he asked. She looked at him, and tears started to well up in her eyes. Michael approached me again. This time he made big promises: study abroad, money, clothes, a new life. But only if I agreed to be with him. Harry stood up slowly, his fists clenched. "He said he could pay you off, or tell his mother to fire you just to get me," Emilia added tearfully. Garia's eyes darkened with anger, but he calmed down when he saw her face. "What did you say to him?" he asked softly. "I said no, said I wasn't interested in his proposal, said I believe in you, I believe in us, and I know that one day God will bless you." Harry looked at her, touched to the core. He pulled her to him and hugged her tightly. "Thank you, Emilia. Thank you for staying with me." She smiled, brushing a tear from her cheek. "You were the first to stay with me. Now it's my turn." That night they prayed together before going to bed. The next day, Emilia woke up early, but her heart was heavy. She was tired of pretending, tired of smiling, when deep down she felt uneasy. Michael's words rang in her head. She tried to ignore him, tried to keep it to herself, but now she'd had enough. She headed straight to the main house and knocked softly on the door. Mrs. Presley opened the door with her usual smile. "Emily, my daughter, good morning. I hope you slept well?" "Good morning, madam," Emily said, looking down. Mrs. Presley noticed the change in her face and invited her in. "What happened, Emily? You don't look the same as usual." Emily took a deep breath. "Madam, I came to talk to you, but please don't be angry." Mrs. Presley sat down. "Of course not, honey. Speak." "We're talking about your son, about Michael," says Emily. Mrs. Presley was surprised. "Michael, what's wrong with him?" Emily's voice was calm but serious. "Michael came up to me again. This time he made big promises, studying abroad, money, clothes, a new life, but only if I agree to be with him." Harry stood up slowly, his fists clenching. "He said he could pay you off or tell his mother to fire you just to get me," Amelia added tearfully. "He worries me. Michael says things that make me feel very uncomfortable. He promises me money, tells me to leave my husband and be with him. He said that he would send me abroad and give me a better life if I agreed." Mrs. Presley was silent in surprise. "He even said he would pay Harry or get him fired just to get me," Emily added, her voice shaking slightly. "Madam, I respect you very much. I respect this house, but I can't remain silent any longer." Mrs. Presley leaned back and crossed her arms. After a long pause, she said quietly, "Emily, you are a beautiful and smart girl. You deserve a better life. Maybe my son just sees your potential. Maybe you should give him a chance." Emily's eyes widened. "Madam," Mrs. Presley continued, "look, I'm not saying that you should just leave your husband, but think about it. We can give you everything you want, education, comfort. Even your husband will benefit. We can pay him to leave. This is a good opportunity for you." Emily stood up slowly. Her hands began to shake, but her voice remained firm. "With all due respect, madam, I'm not that kind of woman." Mrs. Presley was silent. "I didn't come here to sell myself." The girl continued, "I didn't marry Harry for money. I married him because when the whole world turned its back on me, he was there. When my own father gave me away like a sack of barley, he gave me support and preserved my dignity." Tears filled her eyes, but she didn't stop. "Madam, I'd rather quit this job than be with someone I don't love. I will never betray my husband. Never." Mrs. Presley opened her mouth to say something, but Emily politely raised her hand and interrupted her. "Sorry, madam, but that's all. If your son doesn't stop this nonsense, we will leave this house. I won't stay where they don't respect me." She turned around and quickly walked out, brushing away her tears. She couldn't believe what just happened. How could such a woman, whom she respected, try to buy her like a loaf of bread? How could she act as if love had no value? She wiped away her tears as she walked back to the outbuilding. Her chest heaved heavily. She was angry, humiliated, but most of all, she was sure of one thing. She loved Harry. When she entered the room, she saw something that made her freeze in place. These were stacks of money, a lot of money, which were lying right on a small table in the corner. She was dumbfounded. "Harry, what's happening? Where did you get this money from?" Harry slowly rose from the bed, calm and quiet. He looked at her with soft eyes. "My love," he said affectionately. "Come, sit down." "Emily." She walked over and sat down, not taking her eyes off the money. "Speak, Harry. What is this?" He smiled. "This money. I saved them for a long time, little by little. I plan to use them to start my business. This has been my dream since I came to this city. But today, when I saw what kind of woman you are, how you protected me, how you rejected wealth and chose love, I told myself that you deserve better." "Emily," I was still confused. "But what does this have to do with me?" He pointed to the money again. "I want you to use this money for your education. I know how much you want to go to university. You talked about it every time. This is your dream, so take them. Go study. I can handle it." Emily numb. She looked at the money, then at him. "No," she said quietly, shaking her head. "I'm serious, Emily." "And I'm serious," she answered, standing up. "No, Harry, never." Harry was shocked. "Why?" Emily's voice was calm and confident. "This is your dream, Harry. You saved this money and earned it with sweat and blood. You wanted to start a business, and now you're ready to throw everything away for me?" "Yes," the guy said, "but I love you." "And I love you," Emily replied, "and that's why I want us to use this money wisely. Let's rent a small room outside of this house. Let's start a business together. You will manage it, and I will help cook and run the business. When it starts to grow, I will go to study. We will do everything step by step." Harry stood staring at her as if seeing her for the first time. "Do you want us to leave this house?" "Yes," Emily said firmly. "I don't want to stay here anymore. Not with your boss and her son who treat us like we're worthless. We deserve better. Even if it is something small, let it be ours. Shop, rented room, new start, that's what I want." Harry walked up to her, took her hand, and slowly shook his head in admiration. "Emily, you are not just beautiful. You are wise, you are special, you are everything I prayed for." She smiled through her tears. "And you are the only man I want." He pulled her closer, his eyes also becoming wet. "Thank you for being with me." "I will always be with you," she whispered. And then a kiss followed, a kiss full of true love, not because of money, not because of pressure, but because of trust, unity, because of two people who had nothing but each other. That night they lay in each other's arms, almost not talking, only silence, peace, and quiet laughter. And as the moonlight came through the window, Emily whispered, "Our best days are yet to come." And Harry replied, "Yes, my queen, one step at a time, but we will get there together." The next day, Harry was not at home. Emily woke up early, swept the room, and tidied up, but her heart was still heavy from her conversation with Mrs. Presley the day before. She continued to think about everything, about Michael's behavior, Mrs. Presley's proposal, and her bold decision to leave. As soon as she sat down to rest, there was a knock on the door. She opened it and was dumbfounded. Mrs. Presley and Michael were standing on the threshold. Emily was silent. "Good morning, daughter," Mrs. Presley said softly. "Please, Emily, we came to apologize," Michael added with a serious face. Emily stepped back and let them in. Mrs. Presley sat down and looked at Emily with kind eyes. "We are very sorry for everything, for the words of my son, for my words too. We were wrong." Michael lowered his head. "I was a fool, allowed pride and bad behavior to blind me. But now I see clearly. Harry is lucky you are a real woman." Mrs. Presley nodded. "Yes, he is very lucky to have someone like you. You are special, Emily. Women like you are not easy to find." Emily softened her gaze and listened silently. "Yesterday we named you our daughter," Mrs. Presley continued with a soft smile. "And we really think so. You are our daughter." Emily smiled slightly. "Thank you, madam. I'm not angry anymore. I forgive you." Mrs. Presley smiled even wider and then said something strange. "You are my son's wife." Emily frowned. "Your son?" Mrs. Presley smiled. "Don't worry, honey. Soon you will understand everything." A few minutes later they stood up, hugged her, and left. Emily remained standing at the door in confusion. "What do they mean?" Later that evening, Harry returned home. He looked tired, but happy. She turned sharply to him. "Where have you been?" "I was waiting for you." "My love," he said softly, "I need to tell you something." Emily crossed her arms. "So what now?" Harry took her hands and looked straight into her eyes. "Emily, forgive me." She raised an eyebrow. "Forgive me for what?" He took a deep breath. "For lying to you." Emily's face changed. "What did you lie about?" He sat down and said quietly, "Michael is not just the owner's son. He is my younger brother. And Mrs. Presley, she's not my employer. She's my mother," Emily gasped. "What? Harry, you mean all this time?" He nodded. "Yes, I'm truly sorry, Emily. I didn't plan to lie for so long. I just needed to find out if someone could love me for myself and not my money or position." He looked down, guilt evident on his face. "I have been deceived too often. Women pretended to love me, but they only wanted my money. They left when I refused to pamper them." Emily sat down. "You've come far, Harry. You shouldn't have done that." "I know, my love. You have every right to be angry. But please forgive me." There was silence, and then Emily smiled. Okay, I forgive you, but you owe me." He laughed. "And what do I owe you?" "You owe me a car and a mansion for lying to me." Harry threw his head back, laughing. "It's the little things, my queen. Consider that it will be so." Emily. She also laughed and jumped into his arms. "I love you so much, Harrison," she whispered. "And I love you even more, Emily," he replied, hugging her tightly. They kissed, full of love and relief. The truth is revealed. No more secrets, no more pretending. News that Harry, a poor security guard, was in fact a billionaire spread quickly. When Emily's father heard about this, he almost choked on his wine. He immediately grabbed the phone and called Emily. "Daughter, forgive me," he said humbly. "I was blind. I didn't know God blessed you so much." Emily was silent. "I want your stepsister to come live with you in the city. It's hard for her here, and there's no way to find a mate." Emily sighed and calmly replied, "With all due respect, sir, but never." "Please, Emily, I'm begging you," Father said. "I forgive you, but I want to stay away from you and your evil wife," the girl answered. "Now I have a different world. I have suffered too much under your roof." Her voice became sharper. "If you ever need my help with anything important, you can call. But please don't bother me over trifles, and take care of your poor wife." She put the phone down, then looked up and said, "Thank you, Jesus, for bringing Harry into my life." Several years after graduating from university, Emily walked across the stage at her graduation party. She was now a certified doctor. After the ceremony, Harry hugged her tightly. "I'm so proud of you, baby. You are mine forever." She smiled. "Thank you for believing in me. Thanks for everything, dear. You're the best husband in the world." He smiled. "And you are my queen." One afternoon, Harry took Emily out for a walk. They were walking along the river, and suddenly Harry stopped in front of a large lot, where there was a huge white mansion with a red Tesla in the parking lot. Emily looked around. "Why are we here?" Harry smiled and took out a bunch of keys. "This is your mansion, my queen." Emily cried out in surprise. "Harry, stop joking. I'm serious. I promised you a car and a mansion. Here they are." She hugged him, laughing and crying at the same time. "I have good news too," she said, pulling away. "Which ones?" he asked, smiling. "I got tested last week. I'm 3 months pregnant." Harry froze. "Emily, are you serious?" "Yes," she laughed. "We're having a baby?" He picked her up from the ground and spun her around, filled with joy. "God, thank you. I will spoil you and our baby forever." He knelt down and kissed her stomach. "My baby, Daddy already loves you." Emily smiled with tears in her eyes. Dear viewers, did you like our story? We welcome your comments. And right from which part of our planet are you watching our stories? If you liked it, like it, share it with your friends, and subscribe. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you don't miss our new videos. Thanks for watching.